Well, with me I have Barbara Thomas. And Barbara, I want to get your title. You're a member of the New York State Pay Equity Coalition Steering Committee. Did I get that right? Tell us what you do.
Well, as a member of the steering committee, we work to enact legislation that is going to give people fair pay for job titles of comparable worth. So I actually am a member of 3 of the organizations that are members of the Pay Equity Coalition.
That's the coalition type thing.
Right. So I'm a member of the New York State United Teachers Union.
Oh, okay.
The League of Women Voters, and the National Organization for Women.
Well, you're a busy
but
lady.
There's lots of other organizations. AAUW is a very strong supporter of the Pay Equity
University
Coalition.
Women, yeah, right.
Yes. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yes, and the YWCA. So that's the Young Women's Christian Association, but it's really not, you know.
We're looking at trying to increase the pay or equalization of pay for women and people in the...
people of color.
Of color, right.
Because those are the groups in this society that have been discriminated against for a really long time. And we often don't see it. I mean, we went through that whole consciousness raising thing of saying, oh, yeah, women are people, you know, and they're entitled to those rights. And it was President Kennedy who actually signed...
Was that the lead?
Well, no, but it was President Kennedy who actually signed the equal pay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
the first
equal pay for equal work.
Right.
And then Lilly Ledbetter is the person who found out at the time that she was ready to retire, that she had been way underpaid compared to other people doing exactly the same job. And she brought the famous case, and that was the thing that President Obama referred to in terms of pay equity, that they had actually passed legislation. It was the first law he passed when he came into office to require that she would have the right to go back and sue now, because otherwise the statute of limitations was over.
Yeah.
But she had no way of knowing that she had been discriminated against. What we're talking about is fair pay for jobs that titles that have comparable worth. So if we look at...
I think you brought some slides, so we'll be able to take a look at some slides while you're talking.
Yeah, and so the first slide really just shows an old mock-up of how women were discriminated against. They would advertise a male job, and it would be for data retrieval and those kinds of things, or the exact same job, which was for women as file clerks, which did exactly those same things, but they used a different job title, and they did not have to pay equal pay for those jobs.
And I remember when they had help wanted male and help wanted female, and I was, and people that wanted jobs. And I was a pharmacist, and I wanted to put an ad because I had just come back, and I was looking for a job as a pharmacist. And I says, I think you should probably put this under the male. And they said, no, you're a female. It has to go in the female. And I said, there's something wrong here.
Yeah. Well, now we don't.
We don't do that. Yeah. But see how that? Yeah, we had to change that, didn't we?
We did, and we have to change this system that we have now.
What is it?
Oops. You switched too far ahead. If you can, if you could go back to the apples and oranges. Because,
there's the apples and oranges.
Because what we do, and what personnel departments do all across the country, is they look at jobs and they rate them by, like, how many people do you supervise, or how big is your budget, or how much education is required, and things like, oh, do you work under really severe or dangerous situations?
Oh, okay.
So they look at the job and they give it a score. But then often what they do is they benchmark to the market. So they say, oh yeah, this job has, you know, like 7 points for that, and the other job has 7 points, but you know, we can get file clerks for less. So we wanted to
always the bottom line, not the
yeah,
person, not
right.
anything about the people.
So it's not a fair evaluation of that job, and so people don't get the fair pay. And then that, over their lifetime, amounts to a really incredible difference.
When you look at the final tally.
Right, because you haven't paid in your Social Security, you haven't paid in retirement, right. And so you not only can't make as much money and save as much money, but you also don't get then those benefits in proportion to the work that you've done.
I think they were just looking at the cartoon that you had up there.
Well, wait a minute, because am I talking so much? We wanted to look at the fact that there are, in a local school district here, we have 2 different job titles in the same school district. One is a custodial worker, one is a teaching assistant. The custodial worker doesn't have any educational requirements. He works under direct supervision. He does repetitive work. The teaching assistant has to have a high school diploma, has to pass a test about the different subject matter. She works fairly independently. I mean, she works under the general supervision of a certified teacher, but she uses her own skills and ingenuity to interact with either one student
does assessing with.
Right, she does assessing. She figures out, like, how do they need help in answering this question, or what are the, maybe she will say, they don't really get this particular part of it. We need to develop some more materials for that. So she uses a lot more ingenuity in school. Anybody looking at this person would say, oh, gee, a entry-level custodial worker should not probably be paid as much as an entry-level teaching assistant, because their jobs require more as a teaching assistant. However, when you look at, and maybe we can look at that slide of the pay, you can see that the teaching assistant makes $11.25 an hour, I think, and the custodial worker makes $12.35. So right away, it's unfair.
So you have to look at that. Yeah. How can people that are watching this right now, how can they support what you're doing?
Well, they can find out more about it, and they can actually, if they would like to call or look at the website and contact us.
We put the website up there, I think, earlier.
And if you can call, we can give you more information, and we can help you to find out if you are actually being discriminated against.
That's really, it's a good way for you to also find out what's going on in the field. So.
Right, yeah. So, and we love to have more people. We had sort of scheduled this because at this time, we were thinking that we would know what the results of the election had been and who would be in control of the Senate in New York State. Well, we don't know that. But we always need people to help to lobby for this change in the law, because right now, it is perfectly legal to discriminate. That's what the Human Rights Commission has said. They need a law before they can enforce it.
So that's what you're trying to do, which is really important.
And if you can go back to that cartoon of the babies, that really is the whole thing, that we should not be discriminating against people because of their gender.
Right.
There it is. So, and that is what explains the difference, part of it. The other part may be that the color of your skin may have a difference.
I think we've kind of moved beyond that, though, haven't we?
Well, I don't know that we have. I bet that the people who say, I'm thinking that hospital orderlies often were people of color, and that maybe now those transportation people in the hospital don't get quite the
in other
fair
words, because
job
of the way it started, it's just progressed.
It progresses, because you were in that job that was a discriminated against job, just like, say, like a food service worker was generally a woman. And so we generally...
Now you have men there and they're still discriminated because... Gotcha. Well, this is really an important issue, and if you've got daughters, if you know people that certainly are in these positions, we need to speak up for everyone.
Right.
Not just what we get, but everyone.
For fairness,
For fairness, Barbara, it's a pleasure to have you on.
It's good.
You're doing some really wonderful work, and it's so important to get the message out so that you can find out more about it. You can go to their website. I think it's we've had that up there.
Well, actually, it's easy to go to the League of Women Voters of New York State. So if you just Google that, look on the left-hand side, look at advocacy, find pay equity.
Check the advocacy because you want to be an advocate for this, right? Right. Good. Barbara, always a pleasure.
Thank you.